Hey guys, what is going on? Sharp Thinking here. So, got a Spyderco video for you all today. It is on the Native 5. This version is an S90V fluted carbon fiber. However, I think what I have to say is going to apply to most natives, aside from some ergonomic issues I've found, which are not super severe. But yeah, let's start off with the size comparison. I don't have really any knives that are similar to this size. These are some of the smallest knives I have. This is an LUDT from Microtech, and that is a North Arm Skaha 2. Got the Spinza 21. Zan. What else do we have? Strider SNG and the Hinderer XM18. And then we'll wrap it up with the biggest knives I have, which would be the SOCOM and the military. Also, one of my favorite Spydercos. Actually, this is my all-time favorite. S90V carbon fiber, just like this one. So pretty cool. That's basically my perfect knife from Spyderco, S90V or M4 with carbon fiber. So yeah, I like this knife. I like it a lot. I like it more than the Para 3. I like it more than the Delica. In terms of like the smaller knives in Spyderco's lineup, this has got to be my favorite. I've owned, I don't know, maybe like 5 Para 3s. I've owned a couple Delicas. Never held on to them for any extended period of time. But this is a knife that I can see myself owning 2 of. Probably not 3, realistically. I'm trying to stop owning 3, 4, and 5 of the same knife. It just doesn't make a lot of sense. But yeah, so I guess we'll start with the handle. So right off the bat, it's kind of a blade and handle situation that I really like about the Native. So first and foremost, you have a full grip on an otherwise smaller knife. I can get all 4 fingers on here. I don't feel like my finger's about to fall off the end of the knife. And if you do, you can choke up on the knife, get some more control. So I think that's a win. I do like that. A problem that I think is specific to this model, only the fluted carbon fiber, is these corners are extremely sharp. I know on the G10 and the FRN it's not the case, so if those are the versions that you're looking to get, I wouldn't even worry about it. But if you're looking at getting one of these, they basically did nothing to contour the transition right here. They didn't chamfer it. They knocked probably the apex of the corner off, and that's it. So it is pretty sharp. You will notice it if you hold it. You don't even necessarily have to hold the knife that tight. It kind of just has a way of pinching you a little bit. But yeah, I mean, you could modify that. I think it kind of sucks that you would even have to. But I mean, it's a problem. But I would more than likely be interested in some G10 versions in the future, like the LC200N. I'd get that, which is FRN. I'd get a Rex 45 or an M4. Those are kind of the versions I think I would like to check out. But yeah, continuing on with the handle, it is like a 3D contoured, kind of like a Strider CC situation going on. Let's see if you can. Yes, you can see it kind of tapers down there. I like that. The corners towards the bottom here are much better than up top. They're actually not sharp at all. Maybe a little bit on the inside of the liner, but I don't know. It's not something that I can pick up on, at least not easily, with this being such a blatant issue. But yeah, I guess we'll talk about while we're on the handle, we'll talk about the lock. It's just a back lock, pretty simple. I don't mind back locks. This is, if I remember correctly, kind of a different back lock than I'm used to seeing on Spydercos. I owned a Stretch 2. If I remember correctly, and I could be wrong, I think most of their knives have that kind of little indent in there. I don't think that would work on this knife. I don't know if you guys can see that, but when this knife is partially open, this lock bar right here is actually all the way down. So in order to disengage this lock, you have to push it like as far as you can. It's not like the Endura or the Delica where, you know, it's got a tiny little, what would you call that? Tiny little locking arm in there that sits in here. It's actually a pretty substantial, deep cutout there. And I think it should be pretty effective, especially for a knife of this size. I don't think it would cause any issues. But yeah, when I say I'm not an action guy, I'm not an action guy. I like a back lock. You can still fiddle with a back lock. It's just maybe not as fun as the Para 3. Which kind of bums me out now that I think about it, because the Para 3 has some ergonomic issues going on in the same region due to the compression lock. They fix it by putting a back lock on here, and then they don't contour the top scales, so it still has ergonomic issues. Sort of a bummer, but it is what it is. So next thing that I really like about this knife, you guys know, and I'm just using this for the sake of demonstration. The Para 3 and the Para 2 are both like based off of this knife. It doesn't matter the history behind it, but they all share this thumb ramp in common, and in this knife it's not an issue. You can see my thumb is basically straight up and down, and it makes a little bit of contact with the jimping, but not anything too significant where it would be painful. With the Para 3 and Para 2, the Para 2's also not bad. You're kind of stanced up a little bit like this, so, you know, you're kind of crammed in there a little bit, but it's not super bad. And then with the Para 3, you're like right up on it, and that's something that has always bothered me about the Para 3. Now, could you just grip the knife like this? You could. I tend to grab my knives like this. I don't know. Creature of habit, you know? But with this knife, it's not a problem. I can put my finger here if I want some traction, which I hardly ever do. And I can put my finger all the way up, which is actually something I've grown to like, is when knives have a little spot for your thumb, like the Umnum's on, for an example. Not that this knife does, but it's a grip I've grown to really enjoy when I'm using a knife. Moving on to the blade, they offer this knife in almost every blade steel under the sun. You can go with M4, Rex 45. I'm sure they're going to have S45 VN any day now. Sky's the limit. I think the standard version was at one point S35 VN. Now it is S30V. I think that's fine. I know that the lightweight, yeah, I think they're both S30V. I think the G10 and the FRN version are both S30V, the standard run at least. They do offer this in LC200N, not in the G10 version. Handle scales, sky's the limit again. Pocket clips you can customize. This is a deep carry Lynch clip. Not that I had a huge, well, I don't have a huge problem with Spyderco clips in general. This is a buddy of mine's that he threw on here. But yeah, moving on. Continuing with the blade, it is a leaf-shaped blade, one of the classic Spyderco blade shapes that I have grown to love over the years. It's damn near the perfect size for most people's EDC, I would say. You know, if you work in an office, which I don't, or you're just in a state that's maybe not super knife friendly. I mean, here in Ohio, it's not a big deal. Uh, it's even in major cities, Columbus, Cleveland, Cincinnati, it's for the most part nobody gives a shit. But I know that's not the case everywhere. So this might be a really great knife for somebody that lives in an area like that. And what I like about it is you can have such a small, discreet knife and still have so much handle to grab onto, and it feels like a much larger knife than it is when you're holding it, which is interesting. I've noticed that some knives do that, and some knives do the opposite. For instance, the Sabinza 21, when I hold it, for whatever reason, when I'm looking down at it in my hand, it is like, it just, to me, does not seem like that big of a knife. But opposite going on here. So it's ground about as thin as like a PM2. I think Spyderco just keeps that consistent with all of their USA made designs. I would love to see it thinner. I don't think that's a surprise, and I think that's pretty fair. This is a small EDC knife. We don't need it to be thicker behind the edge than a knife such as the SOCOM. This knife is much thinner than the native. This one is also sharpened at 13 degrees per side, so the bevel does still look wide, but I promise it is between 10 and 15 thousandths behind the edge. So I don't know. I mean, it's fine for most people. I feel like a lot of people don't pay that close attention to the cutting performance of their knives. I do, and it really, to me, just it doesn't make sense. It doesn't. I'm gonna end my little rant there. But yeah, I really, really like this knife. I have to say, I'm so pleasantly surprised by it. I think it looks really nice too. And another thing I like about it is, which I forgot to talk about, is it carries so well in the pocket. Oftentimes, you get a knife like the Manix or the PM2, and you have a situation like this where it's very wide in the pocket. And I've broken phone screens from having wide knives just bang into my screen, which I realize is my fault. I shouldn't keep my phone in my knife pocket, but I carried this today with my phone in the same pocket, and it was fine. No issues there, which again has become something that I really look for in a knife. But yeah, talking about price on these, I think I just looked at it. I think it starts at 80 something dollars. I remember when these were $49 on Amazon back in the day. But yeah, so they start at like, I think 80, I want to say, and then they can go as high as 300 for the fluted titanium. Pretty large gap, but I do think that people will buy them. Spyderco's, especially the sprint runs, which it might not be the case with this, but I know the Para 3, the Para 2, and maybe a couple others. If you grab a sprint run that's pretty limited, you're going to be able to get your money's worth out of it. So I think, and that, what I'm referring to is, say you buy the knife and you want to sell it, you'll be able to get typically $30 more than what you paid for it. That's the trend I'm seeing. Kind of weird. Who would have ever thought, with folding knives? But yeah, that's what I've seen. And I think for that reason, people are more likely to buy them. I mean, it's kind of a risk-free thing. You get to check out the knife, and if you don't like it, you can sell it and make even more than what you paid. So I think that is, I don't know, I think it puts people at ease when they spend, like the PM2. How about this? The 4V PM2 that just dropped from St. Nick's, I think it was about $180, so $180, or maybe $170. and you could see them listed for $300 the next day. So, I mean, people will buy them if they're sprints. It's kind of fucked up, but yeah, I like this knife. Sprint run or not, I like the lines of it. I think it has a lot to offer. I would love to get one of these reground. Maybe I'll get one in LC200N and have it reground. But yeah, for now, that is all I have to say. And I appreciate you all watching, and I will see you in the next video. Bye bye.